much money.
Well, so, but going your first 2 years to a JUCO was extremely smart, right? So you were able to get a lot of your core classes and whatnot out of the way.
Oh Lord Jesus!
Degree. And then your
wait till you get over that commentary.
Was at the 4-year institute, right?
Yeah, because I'm like I'm in my last semester or whatever before my grad program, so I'm still undergrad. But my sister, she graduated or whatever. But it's just the fact that she had to even go back to a graduate program because the bachelor's, my sister was making like $20 with her bachelor's.
Right. But once again, we already
but she had that choice.
Right, she had the choice, and she was aware.
But what I'm saying is they need to have clarity on it because we chose STEM majors. We are not no BS ass majors. Like this shit hard as hell. So it's just like we can't make no decent money with the bachelor's. Like nothing.
It's the intro, right? The bachelor's degree is your ticket through the door,
right,
to get you into the next level of education that gets you to where you want. Right. So it's not as if the bachelor's degree is useless. It's the ticket to get to the next level. You said that you were made aware that it was simply a ticket to get you to the next level.
I just want to put out.
It's a barrier of entry.
Right. That's why they make so much.
One person.
Everybody could get it if it was easy to get to, like Orlando
was
saying.
Put this on pause.
It's a
I came on here to make a response. As you can see in the title.
Step over the hurdle. The race isn't that competitive. And the prize at the end of the race shouldn't be that big.
I get planning. But
she's like, I don't want
okay, so with that being said, now I do think that some people, like that lady said, some people be just trying to go to school to get a student refund, which I feel like is really stupid. I don't know why you're doing that. Like especially
it's free money the same way people loan was to them. Yeah.
This is a student loan.
They're never planning on paying it back. So to them, it's
I never plan on paying mine back.
But then it just doesn't you ain't paying yours back.
Right.
I mean, I have no intention on paying my student loan back because even for my grad program is like $25,000 a semester.
Right.
So when I finish the grad program, that's 2 years. So that program, when I finish it, it'll be.
Who's on here?
If
like you're on here, please say something in the chat so I can know who I'm talking to. I'm not gonna be watching.
Probably like 100 and
I'm not gonna be watching 2 views.
Maybe
so
100.
Please put it in the chat. Say hi
or
whatever you need to say.
Yeah.
Okay. And how much do you expect to make on average in your career?
Entry level for anesthesia assistant is about 150. It's between one.
You're there.
That's not guaranteed.
You're pushing the thing, but the reason why you're saying that you don't expect to pay it back is because you plan on getting into some program that's going to pay it back, or you just think you're going to be.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to make the bare minimum payment. I have no intention on paying off any of my student loans because, like I said, my ex, he paid off all of his like a fool. I wouldn't have did it. But
he was making $700,000 a year.
But he was only making to make that $700,000. He had to work like 2-3 jobs to make even being a physician because he only internal medicine.
Right.
So and then on top of that, he went and accumulated more debt because he went and got a law degree. So.
What is the payment on a 170?
This guy is super ambitious. Ambitious. I can't imagine.
$500-$600.
Right.
What you say? What?
I said, what's the payment on 160? What do you think the payment's gonna be on 60?
On your student loan.
On 160, probably like $1,000.
And you gonna do that for life? You gonna do that for life?
No, I'm gonna do the income. I'm gonna try to do the income base. I know I got
I think you said you're gonna do it for the 10-year repayment or the 20 because there's a 20-year.
No.
Payment. Which one is?
I'm doing the 10.
10. Okay.
I'm feeling the 10 because I'm making the bare minimum for the 10. And then somebody, like that guy was saying, they do say that every time a new administration comes, like a new presidential administration comes, like they can make changes to it or whatever. As far
You
as
gonna keep your fingers crossed.
No,
Yeah,
that is
don't
not
bet on
true.
that. Don't bet on that.
I
These
wouldn't
people,
bet on that.
these ain't looking. I don't care.
Man, I don't even think you disagree to me at this point. You realize it's your fault, right? And you just made alternative plans.
Man, I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be honest. If I knew better, I would have did computer engineering or computer science. To be honest, because they really making the money with a bachelor's. Like we literally have to go and get a grade. Why do I have to go to grade
Hey,
school?
YouTube,
Like, I
I'm
just don't
sitting
want to
here
do it.
in the another live stream on another browser, waiting to be in somebody's live
The
chat.
reason why someone gets paid a lot is because
And
they probably have
this is JT
really
Pocket
high
Watcher. I'm
level
not trying to
set of
advertise nobody
If
else's
it's
channel,
if it's not,
but that's
you know,
what
a
you
lot
hear
of
in the
work to get that
background.
high level
So
set of skills,
basically,
it's all about
he
supply
has
and demand,
a
right? The less you have of
his show
something,
is
the more people are going to pay for it.
it's your fault.
So if everyone
if
who
you have
got
high
a
student
bachelor's
loan debt.
degree in your
So
field
I've
was
been sitting
able
in the
to
weight
make
room
the
because
type
they
of
have all
money
these
that you're
people
trying to
coming
make,
forward and say, prove
honestly,
me
they
wrong.
wouldn't be making that
So
type of
I'm
money.
waiting to
There's
get
too
to
many
give my
qualified people
to give my
for that
2
position,
cents in
so
the
that
game
drives
because there
down
was a lot
prices.
of things that was said incorrectly
And
on
one
his
thing I
show.
would say is that this
So
whole thing,
right now, it's this person.
you-
She's in the
you
background.
make
She's
this
in the
mis-
she's
you know,
in the
you-
show.
This
She's at
realization
work
that,
because she got her
oh,
scrubs
man,
on.
I made a
And people are
mistake.
talking about
Whatever
I would
happened,
never
what
went
happened.
to, you
Just
know,
use that
that's
for an
your fault.
example
You get
for
student loan
whatever
debt.
you
Yes,
do
it
in
is
the
your
future.
fault if
Just
you
make sure
get
you do
student
the
loan debt.
research and everything
then
that you need
this
to
chick,
do, so you
for
don't
instance,
fall
she
into
talking about
that
I'm
same
never
mistake
gonna
again.
pay my
Yeah,
student
I
loans.
got Monique's child, her
And
daughter,
I'm like, these
didn't make
people
that same
don't have a
mistake
clue
because she would,
because
and now your
people
children,
acting like,
hopefully,
why should
your
people
children
who
will
get
not be
student
making
loans
that
be
mistake
bailed out
because
or whatever the
you've been
case may
told.
be?
That's just how life
And then they had one person
Yeah,
get on
that's
there,
true. But the school,
you know,
they do
about
push
consultating their clients about student loan debts and the credit report.
low
like,
entry
You
level.
try to solicit
making
more for
jobs.
business,
Like, even
and
my school,
information
like,
like that
pushing
is
some
free.
liberal artsy
So
program. I don't
people
even.
are-
I'm just
people
like I
are
didn't even know
on
you had to go
here-
to school for that, but they be pushing these
people are
programs, and
on
they never
here
put out the
Shaming people.
the
I wouldn't major no
what is it called,
bullshit
the average
major
salary
and blah
or
blah
the
blah.
career
You know, I'm
stats
like,
on-
no
I'm a
career
nerd.
choice.
I always looked at it. I looked
Whether
at what
you
the
go in
average
nursing,
salary was for an
medical,
accountant, financial advisor.
technical,
I was in like high school. Like I knew this.
It's
stuff.
guaranteed.
I mean, I
Going
guess,
to college
it is what it is. But I
and
would
whatever,
suggest
you know, I'm about to make my
maybe we
point
try
the
to make
minute it's
some
my
sort of
turn. So the minute they
all
say,
across
"Oh,
this
Lady
country on
T,
college
I'm gonna
campuses that
have to
students
educate
know
these
how
millennials
much are you
because
actually going to make
you
in this
assuming
major before you commit.
they, you know,
4
you
years of your
assuming
life.
that you'll
At
get the
bare
salary
minimum,
that
most
they
people
talking
take
about. You
5 or
know,
6 years to get a
well,
bachelor's
what's the,
degree nowadays.
you know, I don't know.
Yeah,
It's like
a
some
lot of
people
stupid
in these
people.
other
Maybe we
generation
need
and
to start
stuff,
something up
they
about
real
do a
off
college
point
school.
at times.
Or something.
And I'm
To
like,
me,
No,
to me,
it needs
Going to college and whatever you
It needs
major
to
in,
start in high. It needs to
that
start in
doesn't
high
guarantee
school. 'Cause
you
me and my sister, we
a
did the
high-paying
same thing,
job.
'cause we were
You
both
know, when
wanting
people
to
say,
just do
"Oh,
med
people
school," but
in
I'm just like, I
IT
can't do med school at this
and,
point.
you know,
I'm really tired of
and,
school, so I just opted for
computer
anesthesia
science, you know,
assistant.
you think
they
because you
still make good
graduated
money.
with a degree
But,
in computer science, you
A
think
lot
you're
of
gonna get
my
this big
peers, they
salary.
didn't even know about the program.
Now
that
you
I'm
may
in,
be, you may get
that
that
the entry level was
depending on
150.
how you
So
have your career planning.
I mean, it's a lot of
But
kids. that
I think
just
it's
do not
it's a lot
know.
of shaming
They
going
don't
on
know,
about
and
it's your fault.
I feel like
And
these
watch
schools
it, you know.
don't necessarily they don't go
And
over
this
that.
JT, I like
They
him.
don't-
Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of people on YouTube. When I was on Jermaine Ellis' show that I bashed, but next time Jermaine goes live tomorrow, I'm gonna jump in there and you know we're gonna have a discussion too. You know, but you know, all this bashing about well,
Yeah,
paying the
said
full
that
amount and
you were
this and that or
halfway through and
whatever.
You
You
knew
know,
a way to pay for it, like the
And
military. And
JT,
you still said, I'm gonna
you know, he's up in the Midwest in Missouri. He works for his father.
Everybody
He went to
is
Howard
not,
University as an
army
undergrad.
tough.
Now he's probably
So,
about, let me see,
that's true.
he's probably
But you
about
made that choice.
32 years old or whatever. And it's just a whole lot of stuff that he's talking
Right.
about, and it's kind of pissing me off. Hey, Brooklyn,
Right.
he's
The
pissing
dick
me off
chose
because
me.
these people coming on here, these people coming on here just talking a bunch of stuff. Let me see if I'm next.
Please come back again. There's so many people in the back, but no,
Okay.
Because I'm trying to
I
get next,
appreciate
and if
it.
it's too long, I'm
Alright.
just gonna, in
Bye.
depth chat
All
with
right,
him.
bye. All right, we got Lady T.
Oh, I'm
We
next,
got,
y'all. Hey y'all, I'm back. All right. I don't know if y'all heard the no, y'all couldn't have heard it. Maybe y'all did. Sally, let me know. Did you hear the other StreamYard? Because I have it in another browser. Did you hear the inaction that I did? Because I just got off. Whoever's in the 3 people on there, if you heard that in the background, put yes or put 1. That way I don't have to let me go and talk about it. Y'all talk. Y'all need to talk in the chat. So anyway, so I just got off of that channel and it was talking about student loans and who's at fault and things like that. So he's a pipe. No, don't get me wrong. Now he has a good channel. But I was highly upset about it because I'm sitting here listening to, reading the chat, listening. I said, you don't let nobody finish. And I said, my whole thing that made me so upset was people are shaming people, talking about if you major in this or whatever. I wouldn't major no bullshit degrees. And this and that. I was like, first of all, I said, no major you graduate from college. It's not a guarantee in regards to income, a job, because number one, I said that people take out these student loans. You cannot sit here and try to say people go to school to take out student loans so they could get a check and all this stuff and don't even finish the degree. That's their choice. And I said, we're not talking about, well, whose fault is it that nobody, you don't know people have circumstances, particularly in the Black community, they push about education. You need to go to college. You need to go to school. Let me go to college. And if somebody happen to go to school and people say, oh, you need to do the research. You get people need to do the research with scholarships and things like that. I told them, I made it real clear. I said, I went to high school. I graduated from high school in 1987. When I initially went to school, I went to Baruch College and I had a scholarship through I got one from my church, but the tuition was not as expensive back then. And I later transferred, and then I said I already got my MBA degree from Capella, which is a private school. And I made the choice to go get my MBA degree. And I said, first of all, a lot of these schools, and the point I'm trying to make, and they were like, how is that the school's fault? I said, ain't nothing about the school's fault. And I made a point about the reason it is so much the schools, the government, and why people are in a financial situation that they are in regarding student loans is because if you paid on the student loans, say 8, 9, 10 years, and you paying, first of all, the payments you make, it don't go and hit the interest. It don't even touch the principal. Even, and I said that basically they should need to forgive the student loans, whatever the amount will be, because you made payments twofold. So here these dumbass people in the chat, take her off the show. She know how she talking. I said, I looked in the chat. And I sure did make some comments to these people on the chat that they need to move. They need to mind their fucking business or stop. People. I was like, this is a whole new other generation of millennials getting on there saying things. I said, I may never finish paying off my student loans. I'm not talking about forced to take a student loan, Blue True. That had nothing to do with force. No one forced. I'm talking, listen to what I'm saying before someone talking about force. Because I'm not gonna be pissed off over something, like this. So don't get booted off, Blue True, because I could boot you off. We're not talking about whose fault it is. No one forces no one, because number one, the Black community, particularly Black people, they push the concept of college, go to school, and everything else. I said it's not a guarantee that you will have any type of upward mobility, just because you went to school. Now damn fucking well what I'm talking about. I'm not talking the most majority of people in the Black community. They didn't come from wealthy. They didn't come from wealth. They didn't have no generational wealth. They didn't have rappers and actors and things that are parents who send their kids to these schools in a brand new car, and they could pay they could send their kids to whatever school. So here you go to college or whatever. Most of the time they don't even finish school. I'm not talking about people who have the ability where their parents have money to send their school and write the tuition and go about their business. But most people, or majority of Black folks, they may be one generation of college educated degrees, maybe two in some cases. But we're not talking. If you don't have the people don't have the financial means, they push, and that's the point I'm making. When people go to college, particularly most of these HBCUs, that when they was getting that money from the government, that's why Allen University, Morris Brown, they shut down, because a lot of those administration or people in those board of trustees and stuff, they were pocketing a lot of that money. So when people say, I want to go to this school, and they may have to scrape up to go to college, scrape up money to buy books, scrape up money to get housing, to better themselves. And if they go to school and they short, and the parents couldn't they couldn't afford to come up with the money. And then therefore, when they push student loans, because if you want to better yourself, people in the Black community had push education. People push, regardless whether they went to a state school, university, private, public, or whatever the case may be. That's not the same as what's going on now. People went to school, went to the college education, and therefore, you may not have all the means or all the financials to go to school debt free, or whatever the case may be. You may have to take out student loans. But what I'm making is, these people on that channel, they still probably talking. They probably still talking. And I got off because I said, you know what? If I'll read the chat and I'll have to curse somebody out. So I didn't even say nothing. So I said to myself, don't bash people. Don't bash people on whatever choices they make, and whether they go to school or what they major in. Because the point I'm making is that whatever degree you get, even if you went to a trade school, 2-year school, whatever, it's obsolete after 5 years. 5 years, your degrees, regardless what it is, it becomes obsolete. So either one, you have to keep on improving on yourself, depending on your field. Whether you go to a trade school, whether you go to some school, it's expensive. Even if you said, oh, you went to this trade school to learn plumbing, for instance, or HVAC. And those programs could be as much, 25,000, 30,000, if not more. if not more. And you go there, you learn the trade, and it says, oh, you can come out, make 6 figures. That's your salary when you work for any type of field you in is based on supply and demand. It's not always guaranteed you make some big money coming out. Regardless of what you see, people say, well, if you do the research, you're gonna need some jackass people. If you do the research on Department of Labor statistics, you can see what the median point. That's statistics. That has nothing to do with will you go and get it? Will you go and get that salary? That's not guaranteed. Will they go and hire you? You could go to school, you could do that or whatever, and some people may not. You may come out there and you may not even get a job. And it has nothing to do with the type of major and degree you get. You can come out of school or whatever. You can network with people. Yes, network. It takes a lot of work. Getting a job or whatever is based upon networking, doing some type of internships, but you have to really work hard to get it. Get your foot in the door. A lot of times applying for a job or anything you do, you got to put your resume and it's read by computer. There's people who got PhDs and everything else, high degrees. They still can't find a job, even though it says, what? They got a PhD in computers. They ain't find no, that's not guaranteed. And if you factor in the race as a black man or a black woman, and you're trying to get in the field, that ain't as easy. I'm not saying it's supposed to be easy to find a job, but in regards about student loans, you look at the majority of people who are in these debts of student loan debts. The ones who, and then here comes some people, and they got the nerve to some people in the chat. It's their responsibility. They shouldn't get a bailout. You know what? They may not have to bail out those student loans debts, but who is the one being affected the most? Black folks. So all these people go on there talking about they shouldn't bail out. Y'all took the loan out. It don't make a fucking difference if you took the loan out or not. I said it's no different. It is no different when people forcing people go ahead and get this car, pushing people to buy things, whether it be student loans, mortgage, car loan, this credit card, or whatever the case may be. Nobody's not forcing you to take out the loan, whether it be a student loan. And I'm not talking about, the interest rate. The interest rate is low. I said, it ain't got nothing to do with no damn, debt is debt. Whether the interest rate is 0 or whether the interest rate is 8. Debt is debt, and that is an enslavement. Nobody didn't force nobody. Nobody didn't force no one to take a loan. But what's the choice you have? You could go, if you graduated from high school, or even if you didn't, because there's some dumb people, they don't graduate from high school. You could try to advance yourself, have your own business, and I don't believe everyone should have their own business. But if you came out of high school, straight out of high school, with no type of going to college, there's the military. They be on the military. Yeah, but everybody can't go to everybody can't go to military. It could be health reasons, it could be religious reasons, it could be any type of reason. Going to the military is people make it say, oh, you get the GI Bill. Let me tell you something. I have many relatives that they went to the army and things like that. They're not going to just, you take advantage of get the GI Bill. Some people go to the army and they be in there 4 years and that's it. They don't, you either have to choose the career, go in the military, but it's a lot of things you need to do. It's based on test scores. It's based on whether your aptitude you take a test. Your position and what you do in the military, in the service, is based on that test. If you know, so the military, going to the military for a career, you get the GI Bill. First of all, if you don't really have the strong aptitude test to get a high career in the military, so it ain't about no one enforce. Enforce someone. No one. Yeah, it's you systemically in a position, particularly if you Black, you don't have that type of. The majority of Black folks in general do not have that resources to send their kids to college if they want to go to college. You could go to college, and people will say, you see what every year they always have this one person. They said this person got $1.2 million in scholarships, and they applied to this school. They got accepted to Yale, Harvard, this, that, whatever school, whatever the case may be. Good. But that's not the norm. That's a rarity. So there's a whole lot of more things people need to go on to. Just because people get student loans, you don't know how hard somebody worked to get it. They may have some scholarships. They push student loans and they say, okay, well, here's your FAFSA. You get your FAFSA and you could apply for scholarships, whatever. And they'll give you, let's say, okay, we'll give you 80% of a package for you to go to school. But yet you still short. People need to quit. They need to quit. They need to be shoot. You know what? I'm 52. I don't give a damn. If I don't finish paying my student loans off by the time I get to a certain age, my income base, the remaining balance or whatever it may be, they will eat it. They would have to eat the cost because I probably paid off way more in the payments I made. I would have paid that loan twofolds. People always talk about, well, no one forced, Blue Truth, no one forced to take out a student loan. That's not the point. You can't just can't make no it's your fault. Don't bash people. Don't bash and shame people. JT, you don't be bashing people. I didn't do it. I said, yes, you did, because when you allow people to get on there talking about that's a bullshit major. Just because someone said I'm majoring in nursing and you go to pre-med, that ain't no guarantee. You could go to medical school and say, well, you could work at a nonprofit, and then you could work there and they'll forgive it after you work there for 10 years or we'll forgive it for 5 years and all that kind of stuff. You stay to work at a government job or a nonprofit, and then that's just a vicious cycle when you do that. You sacrifice to work at a government job, whether it be police, firefighter, nurse, teacher, whatever, and all the things going on in these state governments, federal government, not paying people so it could cover inflation. Yeah, hell yeah, they need to forgive student loans when you work in public service. But also within that case is also these for-profit schools who got millions and billions of dollars from the government just to promote. That's the point I'm making. It's the marketing of how they issue and give out these student loans. That's what I'm talking about. And it don't even have to be a profit. It could be any school or university benefit from the billions and trillions of dollars they get from the government. And then when they people want to go to school, you only going to be promoting student loans and other things like that. Shoo. If you pay taxes on all these years and you choose to whether you're a parent or you the student itself, you paid your taxes of all these programs that these universities and colleges get. Someone go to college and stuff and they want to go to this school. Well, we can only give you $10,000. We can give you $10,000, but the rest you got to take out a student loan. And then they turn around benefiting from the monies they get from the government and administrators getting high salaries from the government. And meanwhile, if you're a student and you was like, I would like to go to school. I would like to go to school. I want to go to school and go to college. And you go. Yes, you are forced to take out a student loan when you are only given so much in regards to they'll give you a little bit of financial aid package. So you got to sit there and you got to say, okay, and I'm going to give you a perfect example. If you're a young person or a person going to school and they base it on your parents' income and your abilities to try to research and try to get some scholarships and things of that nature, you would therefore say, and you applied and you wrote essays, you wrote letters, you filled out different applications to get student loans, to get scholarships. Yes, you may have to start early. You may have to start early in high school before you reach your senior year and start doing research probably when you're a freshman in high school to try to go ahead and get these scholarships early, starting from the 9th grade or 10th grade, depending on when your high school year starts. Or get merit scholarships and things of that nature. And then you may be lucky if you get a free ride to go to these schools. And most people who get a free ride, and I'm not talking about the parents who got money and they could write a check and that's it, and they ain't worried about the education of their children. People start babies when they're a child. They start doing some kind of, let me say money aside from the time the child is born. If you come from a family background that didn't do that, and most Black folks are not in that, they were not in the position to do that more so. Black folks was not in the position to do that. You may be the first generation going to college, but the parents, you can't blame the parents just because the parent didn't set aside some kind of education trust fund from the time the child is 18 years. So they could say, okay, here you go. You got money for you to go to college, and but if they didn't do that, and you got to, as a child and as a person of the parent, sometimes the parents didn't go to school. They may not be aware of that. They could be, most families, people come out of single parent households and stuff. Shoot, they trying to work. They trying to provide just for basic needs. So when people graduate from high school, that's why it's such a big thing, particularly in the Black community. If that child graduated from high school, it's like a big thing. It is a big thing. Now, if they went to college and went to school, then that's a plus. But the struggles of most families, Black families, and maybe white folks too, is a struggle to try to get that child so they could send them to school and college. And they may not have the money to do that. They may not have the abilities to scrunch up the money to do that. So if the person goes to school and they say, well, we gotta go to, try to go to the whatever school they get accepted to. They may go, they have to go to a school that they apply to. If they so happen to get accepted, you choose a school that's feasible for you, that you could afford. But if the parent cannot help the child to get an education in terms of finances and things of that nature, people say, well, y'all fault because you chose an expensive school. Any school is expensive if you cannot afford it. Even if it is a 2 year, it's expensive for some people. If they went to a 2-year school, it's expensive. It's cheaper, yes. It's cheaper than, say, going to a state university or a public school. And then people want to go on and blame about, well, if you chose a bullshit major, and then, you can't get no job. See, that's the problem. People focusing so much. You go to college, just go to college, whether it be a 2-year school, trade school, 2-year, 4-year university, is to get a job. You getting a job, your salary and pay is dictated by what they're going to give you. People say, well, people need to start a business. Everybody ain't got the aptitude to start no business. Stop bashing people. Stop people being bashed about the choices and talk about it's your fault. That's the point I'm making. Stop putting it about whose fault it is. When the fact of the matter is that going to, advancing yourself educationally is to get a better position in life. But don't say it's a fault of somebody because they took out student loans or whatever the case may be. When in fact of the matter is, if you market it in a way where all these schools and universities and administrators, they getting paid all this money that's supposed to go towards students so they could issue more grants and scholarships. They want to say, oh, here you go. This is student loan. That ain't nothing more than a mill. They try to make money. These colleges and universities is making money. It's just like predatory towards someone. And most of the people who are affected through predatory loans, whether it be a student loan, car loan, or whatever, is from the fact that is the only option that they may give to a person so they could go to school. And you marketing the dream. Shoot, just because you got some fucking scrubs on and whatever, and and people thinking, oh, they're a nurse, you can make a lot of money. Yeah, you're gonna make a lot of money because you're working 70 hours a week on your feet, and then so let's be for real. Let's be for real. Nobody better not come to me about some BS. And then these dumb people, I should go and see if they still there, but I ain't feel like dealing with them. Don't look at the chat. Look at us. You getting up, I'm gonna get hot and upset. I said, I like the channel, but I said no. You got your people. You got people in here bashing people on some and make it sound it's their fault. So, Blue True. Don't put there about force. Ain't got nothing to do with no one ain't force no one to take no loans out. You up there, you work hard, and people work hard to go through high school, finish high school, and if the parents, work hard to try to scrape up money for them to go to school, and they say, well, you got 3 choices. That's why you don't choose one school. And that's it. You choose several different schools, and then you turn around and then see what kind of package you could get. Now, I can't speak about what's going on now in this generation because back when I went to school at City University, New York, CUNY, Baruch College, they had the Pell Grant, where if you went and applied, people got the Pell Grant. You know, the tuition was not so expensive, and it had nothing to do with the rate of inflation and all that kind of stuff. The cost of college prior to that, and I said, I wasn't living in the years, in the decade when the colleges and these community colleges were free. But it was not as expensive. They didn't elevate the cost of college in schools and universities. They didn't make it affordable for people to afford to go. That's the point that I'm making. The cost of education and stuff, yeah, you know, they said, oh, we have to factor in the rate of inflation, and that's, I'm talking about public school. I'm not even talking about the private schools. The private schools, if you're fortunate to go to an Ivy League and a private school, they may have a bigger endowment to allow people to go, and then they try to get more minority students. So you may go to Yale and Harvard and everything else on affirmative action, and they may try to give you more of a scholarship to go. But in actuality, people, you may be going to some of these schools and it says, well, they got a full scholarship. Then you got to deal with the social aspect that people say, oh, you came to Yale because you came to Yale or Harvard and on a scholarship, you know, on a ride. Or you had to do federal work programs where you working at the same time you going to school. But it has nothing to do with no major. Like I told him, like the point I'm trying to make, or I don't even know if I made the point because he keeps cutting me off over talking. That has nothing to do with it. You went to Howard and worked for your daddy's firm back home. You know, everybody's situations and most people's situations in terms of how they went to school and how they went to college, and if they had to take out loans and they finished. I'm not talking about people who went to school just to try to get a check. Oh, let me enroll to this school and me get student loans, and I'm gonna, you know, you taking out random student loans just to get, you know, you taking out of student loans or a check to get a check. And they don't issue you no student loan checks for you to bank. Let me bank the check. First of all, they give you student loans that will be, you know, they say, okay, the tuition needs to be paid for the semester and the room and board. And you take out student loans, is that it's paid towards to cover the expenses. You're not just going to get a check and then you don't use that check to pay your tuition. They didn't work like that. So a lot of people in that chat, a lot of people came up there with making, I said, what are y'all talking about? Well, you know, people, I said I could care less if what people do with the check. Because number one, if you get that check just to try to, let me get the student loan so I could run my music business, they give you the bill and they said the tuition needs to be paid. Who's going to pay for, how is it going to be paid? Oh, you got to be taken out of student loan. You can take out a student loan. Do they have other, you know, they give you, these schools purposely set aside whatever grant or whatever little grants they could give you. So when you talk about nobody forced no one to take a student loan. So when you say no one forced to take no student loan, you sit up in here and have where you have your parents and people working hard to send you to school. They may just have just enough money to buy essentials and take them to school on these college campuses or whatever the case may be. They may have struggled very dearly to send that child to school and still didn't have enough. Now I'm gonna tell you the story about my family situation stories, because I heard it all the time. When my Aunt Shirley and my grandparents in South Carolina, they weren't rich, but they weren't dirt poor either. They worked the fields, tobacco fields, and everything else. When my aunt went to Claflin University in Orangeburg, South Carolina, and she wasn't the only one. There was some other, I'm gonna get down to the list. So my mother and her siblings, my uncles and aunts, and everybody else, when they sent my Aunt Shirley to Claflin, which is HBCU, and my grandfather, he didn't graduate, he didn't went to college. My grandfather didn't, I don't know if I'm quite sure he probably finished high school, but I'm not sure. But they didn't have the means and the money to send my aunt to college when they sent her off to college at Claflin. So what they did was, and I heard this all the time, my mother, uncles, aunts, they all worked the field. We said, we need to work the field. We need to come up with the money so they could pay the tuition to send my Aunt Shirley to school. The whole family worked the fields, did whatever. Sometimes they got taken out of school so they could go to the field. My grandfather, because my aunts and them tell it all the time, my grandfather went to the school in his overalls and went to the school and said, I need my children to get out of school because we need to work the field. So they get on the microphone, Benjamin Nelson children, Carrie, went right down the list. Y'all need to come on because your father needs y'all to come on. And they went and left school. And one of my Aunt Jacqueline, the one that came to visit me, she went to South Carolina State University. And it was like, oh man, Daddy, we have to go in the field. They all got loaded up in that truck, went and did, picked tobacco, did whatever. So they could come up with that money, not just to pay basic bills, but to come up with the money so my aunt could go to school, go to college. My mother, on the other hand, when she came of age, she left. She went to New York and was, she went to college. I remember going to college with my mother. My mother had me and my two other sisters, and we were young. And I remember she would take us to school, to college. I remember we'd be outside playing, and my mother was, she went to community college. She started at the community college. She didn't, and, then went on to Hunter College and then went on to get her master's and her PhD. So education was always been valued in the Black community in terms of advancement. Now you're going to say, well, what the hell that got to do with student loans? Somebody troll right now. Already going to say something stupid. The point of the matter is, when they push education in terms of people going to school and ability to go to school, even then, they didn't have no student loans and all that. They didn't have student loans. They didn't have no student loans because, a lot of these universities and colleges, Black HBCUs and stuff, when they wanted to advance the race and educate, it was the churches, it was the people in the community that came out and provided a lot of assistance to students. They weren't trying to make profit off of students with these student loans and these administrators getting paid all this money and things like that. So my mother worked her way when she went to school. So when you go right down the list, One uncle, they went to trade school. I would say two of them went to trade school. One of my uncle Blake, he went to Claflin. He a Claflin graduate. Same thing. They worked, the family worked to get educated. And they did what they had to do. They didn't have no student loans. They didn't have those options like that. There was no such thing as taking out federal student loans and we, they didn't have no Pell Grant and all that things back in the day. They had it where the church. I grew up as a Methodist, so people would give out, the community. They said, they would raise money for scholarships and they would give a little stipend when people would go into school and to college. They help each other along in the community, particularly in the church. And if they had the members, he was a member of the church. And I went to a Methodist church. I went to church, and they was like, oh, for those who graduate, and they'll give a little something, because the Black community had valued education and they helped along in the community to provide some type of assistance, whether it be, even if it was just a little bit of money for someone to go back to come home or to buy some clothes to go to school. And then when the time, there was my Aunt Jacqueline, same situation too. They worked hard in the fields. My grandfather worked hard in the fields so he could make sure my aunt, they was able to go to college, that they were able to go to school. And then the next generation, so of course, at the time, when they market student loans and everything else, Black people has always struggled to come up with money. They have, people ain't have money like that. I mean, there's some families, they may be fortunate to afford to send their child to school, sending them, So don't tell me about, what forced them to take out no loans and things, whatever. And people work hard to try to go to school, and if it so happens they try to get these different scholarships, it still don't cover it. Why should the cost of tuition be so outrageous, out of reach? And then it's lining the pockets of these administration, especially at these HBCUs. Shoot, they're not private. They're public school, private school, just the same, but they got all that money. And let's talk about people who play at these football players and basketball and people playing for these schools. They'll give them, this is okay, you got a scholarship to, we'll give you a scholarship and you can play for us. Everybody on that team don't get scholarships. They give you a partial scholarship or they give you whatever. They give them $100, $200 a month, and you playing basketball, football, you practicing for 3-4 hours a day. You go to class. They advertise the likeness of these students all over the place. The schools, public school, I ain't talking about private, public school, UGA and Georgia Tech and all these schools, they getting billions of dollars from all these different sponsors and from all these different sponsors and bowls. And these student athletes, and I was a student athlete because I played basketball my first year in college. It was not no Division I school or whatever. But these big schools, and now some of these HBCUs are trying to get into the act and say, what about us? What about us? And then they promoted that Jackson State, University of South Carolina State goal game what was it, last Saturday? 2 Saturdays ago now? Was it 2 weeks ago? Yeah, 2 weeks ago. They're getting millions of dollars to play these games, and the student playing for these teams have to fight to see whether or not they could get some kind of stipend, and they playing. They're not really getting a free ride. They're not really getting a free ride when they go there. That's why a whole lot of them if you make it to the NFL, NBA, or whatever the case may be, they don't finish college. They go right on to the draft, and then their hopes is to make millions of dollars. You see all those families, they hope to get their kids in a big time NBA program. That's not guaranteed either. That you'll make it. Less than 1% of people who play for these sports and stuff make it big. And then some of them may make 6 figures playing in hopes that they get a contract. And some of these players, their father may have been a league, might be professionally played and things like that, and they may not even make it. Everybody can't be LeBron James and Steph Curry or whatever. But when they're in school, in college, they don't give them they give them a little bit of stipend. And I'm talking about at big schools. I ain't talking about these little schools. I'm talking about UGA, all these big schools. Those student athletes don't get a lot of money. That's why they were fighting to say that they should get a salary while they're there, because they generating billions of dollars for the school using their likeness. And now they got this new thing now that people signing up with these different agencies. That's not a contract. Those contracts are not enforced. You hope to get something extra. Shoot. People talk about they want to, you go to college to bring yourself. Yeah, you bring yourself up either 2 ways. Either you be an athlete and they will work you like a fucking horse and work those students like you a damn on the slave block. You go to these camps and stuff, they measuring you, poking you, measuring you, and look at, like you a damn fucking cattle. And then you sit up in there just to trade that in, that you hope to get millions of dollars. And some of them do, but the minute you're not worthless, that you're not worth the team anymore, boom, that's it. You gone, But back to the point about people going to school, taking out loans, and people taking out loans and stuff. Nobody forced you. Say, okay, you forced to. But if you want to go to school, and you want to and you want to advance, and you want to try to develop yourself with a career-wise, and you want to go to school, and you work hard, and you try to get as much of the aid you want, they're going to give you whatever number of aid they're going to give you. No, we ain't got no more. All the loans and everything else has been gone. You got to take out student loans. And people talk about, your choice of major. That's not a guarantee. Just because that's statistics. What's the statistics for Black folks going in these careers? Let's talk about that. Shoot, you sit up in here, people submit resumes, and they're like, they ain't find no job. You ain't guaranteed to find nothing either. If you just because you in nursing, healthcare, STEM. Shoot. You got to network. You got to do this. You got to do that. You got to do all those things. But that has nothing to do with the fact that while you trying to go through school and try to obtain as much aid that you could get, that they market these student loans to people. And people say, "But they force you to take." Have you, Blue True? Have you ever stood in a line when it was time to enroll for your classes, and then you also had to go to the next line, which was the financial aid, and they say, "Well, do you have a check for whatever the tuition is for the semester?" Once they apply whatever federal government aid that's available, if they said they could only give out, in the government who gives you these aid grants and stuff, Pell Grants. Oh, we only gonna give people $2,000 for Pell Grant. What the hell? That's not, let me stop out for scholarship. Okay, I got these scholarships and I went from these. A lot of organizations and stuff, they're not giving out a big scholarships and stuff like they used to. You gotta apply, and they only giving out so much money to so many people. You gotta, So when people talk about ain't nobody forced no one get no student, you are forced to get the student loans if you want to go to school. And if you so happen to want to go to school and you do that, fine. We're not talking about private school. Ain't nobody forced you to go to expensive school. A school could be expensive. It's relative what you could afford. It could be expensive for a 2 year. Somebody could go to college for 2 years. That's expensive for somebody. You could go to a school that says, okay, it's $5,000. Yes, it's expensive for anyone, even if they don't have the money like that. Shoot. I don't know why y'all not saying nothing. Y'all ain't saying nothing, but people don't write stuff in the chat and then be quiet. But I'm not saying about challenge me or change my thoughts. But these are my thoughts. But I'm not the one on there shaming people. It's their fault. Your fault. Ain't nobody asks. You know what? The same thing I could say about people getting these stimulus checks, PPP loans. And people say, well, why should they pay back the loan? Because some people didn't even qualify for it in the first place. Let's talk about that. The government had passed $2 trillion stimulus packages. They bailed out everything else from people sitting on their fucking ass, getting not paying people's rent, not paying their rent for 2 years, and still getting $650 a week for 5-6 months, and then getting $425 a week plus unemployment. And they talking about, well, it ain't their fault. You tell me where the injustice is that. Where's the injustice in that? I'm a taxpayer, pay my property taxes, state tax. I probably pay millions and millions of dollars in taxes in my lifetime. And when the government pushed these student loans, making money from the from the interest, and then the job market is dictated in regards to salaries, not increasing pay for working as a federal employee. And they say, okay, well, you can do the income base. First of all, see, I didn't even get a chance to say my argument without being cut off. JT, you work as a police officer, nurse, working working for a teacher. Don't come up there and make it seem like the choices and career choices is bullshit. And they say, no one told you to choose that career. That's bullshit. I would make more money. You assuming the people in their chat, y'all assuming that they're going to dictate, they're going to give you a higher salary like that. No, it don't work like that either. If you really want to speak about it, and I'm not just talking about people who are in the teaching profession either. If they took those student loans out and you working for whatever type of occupation, and they, and you get a public service announcement or income base, hell yeah, they should forgive that. They should forgive the student loans after you paid for 20 years, even if you paid off the student loan in 10 years, because that's the maximum time they allowed you, 10 years to pay it off. But your payments is $1,000 something a month with an interest rate of 8%. Because you consolidated, so and you make payments, and you say, "Well, you didn't have to do that." What the hell people talking about? People talk about what they don't have to do. You said people have parents and everybody else, send their children, particularly black folks. They promote education and go to school and to enhance shit. We ain't that many. We not that far off in generation from 1968. I was born in the year 1968. Slavery might have ended in 1869 or something like that, but shoot, for 400 years. But the other, with civil rights thing, that's what 50 years. That's not a whole lot. That ain't that far off. Systemic racism of trying to get into the field. You got to deal with the systemic racism trying to get into the Silicon Valley and IT. There people went to college, got degrees in computer science and everything else. Did internships, they work at Facebook and all these companies, and then you got to go through fucking hell when you working in those STEM. But they say, "Oh, you work in STEM? Well, he getting 6 figures." See, that's the fucking problem. Y'all thinking just because someone said they make 6 figures, shoot. You know what? You got to struggle to even validate your knowledge. It's so many big companies that want to do big pay. Why you start your own business? You start your own business. Then you got to deal with trifling ass black folks who want to nickel and dime you to death when you provide services. But then you have to really work. Black folks always have to work 100 times more just to get any type of opportunities, and we tear each other down. And you tear each other down by making it like it's your fault. It's to get in that debt. You're tearing people down in terms of what choices they made. I don't. That ain't my issue. If they went to school, they paid the tuition, they paid the books, and if they got that little extra check, they had to still pay for the expenses to go to school. If they didn't finish school for whatever the reason is, or they dropped out, maybe they dropped out. Maybe if they said school wasn't for them, then don't waste your time and continue to go to school or whatever the case may be. But there may be many reasons why people drop out of school. And most of the time, black folks, black men in particular, they said they have low enrollment. Men in particular, I ain't gonna say black men, but men in particular drop out of a lot of these 4-year institutions and they go to trade school because you have to align your skill sets to what you want to do. But don't base your choices and careers because you thinking that they pay more money and whatever. A lot of people work at being lawyers, nurses, and healthcare doctors and things like that. They go to school, medical school, accumulate $200,000+ in debt, and they may say, "I don't want to do this no more." You may say, I don't want to do this no more. And people say, well, that's a waste of money. That's a waste. What about all those student loans? What about it? If they so happen to pay it off, they know people aren't going to pay no student loans off because the system is set that way. It's set that way. It is set that way where they know that. I'm not talking about no $10,000 student loans and stuff. You know, that's something like that could be paid off. But when you start getting into 50,000, 60 plus, you can try to pay off that student loans. You'll pay it off as fast as you can. Okay. You can pay off your student loans if you're not paying rent. You living at home. You ain't got no obligations. And you living free in somebody's basement, or you living at house and you still living at home. Yeah, you can pay your student loans if you in that situation. But most people are not in that type of situation. It ain't no different than when these companies go on these college campuses pimping or peddling credit card debt. People got credit card debt, went to college, you ain't had no credit, and they promoting the credit cards, Citibank, Chase, predatory lending. That's why the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, passed a lot of these rules and laws about credit card companies doing it. They weren't disclosing that. The terms and conditions, ain't nobody forced you to sign it. You can read before you sign. When you market, these companies market products in a way where it is predatory. And when you say, whose fault is that? That is, don't push it on people saying it's their fault. Whether it's student loans, mortgage, credit card debts, car loans. The thing is, they purposely make it for them to make money. All these upper echelon people from down the list is making money from millions and millions of people with all these student loan debts. Yes, the government do need to eat it. I paid tenfold when I paid millions and millions of dollars as taxes. All that money I paid in student loans that I was paying throughout these years. Hell fucking yeah, they need to bail out people with student loan debts. Because I paid my debt to society when I paid these taxes, when I paid those student loans. Yes, it was my choice to take out the student loans, but don't bash. Do not shame people and people in that damn fucking chat. I hope some of them come over here. Come on, I hope y'all go back and listen. Fuck y'all or whoever else had anything stupid to say. Cause see, I'm gonna go back and replay that video right back to some of these people in the chat, and I'm gonna drag y'all out. And don't write me no fucking chat remarks either. She talking about get her off the channel. Man, fuck y'all. You little damn pricks. And everybody, don't look at the chat. Look at us. Let's go see with us. No. Cause see, I'll be way better off than most of y'all. But I wouldn't go. You know, how many people don't even know how to write in the chat and then got the nerve to say something? Man, get off my face. Get the hell out of my face. It ain't got nothing to do about whose fault it is. Is he still on here? Come here and talk about some people. They still in the fucking chat, y'all. See, somebody talking about a point that I was making. I'm listening at the same time when I mentioned about the consolidation. See, I've been left that fucking chat like almost 2 hours ago, and I made the point what I made, and then he kind of said, "That's not true." And I said, "It is true." You know, let me go on because I ain't saying nothing. I said, Orlando, he's the other guy in there. He does real estate. I said, first of all, you consolidate your student loans. The point I'm making about that, you consolidate your student loans. Say, when I consolidated all those damn fucking loans, and it was like 8% or something from the 90s. Now, if you get a student loan, the interest rate is like, you know, it's zero now because they extended it until May. But I said, if you've been paying the student loans in all these months and years, and you consolidate and say, okay, I want to consolidate it at a lower rate. You saving money and stuff. I said, no, you got to go back and, you know, just like I was telling you about the car loan situation. If, you know, you could pay extra on the principal and just try to pay that principal, try to make extra payments towards the principal to pay it down lower. But when you consolidate the loan and you made 5 years of payments and then you consolidate it, you doing it all over again, and you may have a lower payment at the lower interest rate. Yes, you do. That's true. But you extending out the loan longer. All the payments you made in the 5 years doesn't change the fact. And I said, I told him, I said, you know what? I know how to run numbers too. I ain't one of these little people in the chat that you know you just over talk to, and they don't understand it. That ain't true. But you ain't showing me. You show me the numbers, please. You save a certain amount of money in interest going at a lower interest rate, but you still paying way more. There's a breaking point. when it becomes advantage, or how much are you saving in the difference? If they say you save an extra, like, let me give you an example. When I first started paying my mortgage, right, and I was like, "Ooh, let me think about refinancing it," and they said, "Oh, you're gonna save $80 a month from going from 5.5 the FHA loan down to a 3. No, it was like 3 or 4%. But then you have to pay. You also have to pay closing costs and all this other stuff." And I said, "I'm only saving. That's all I'm saving." It was like $60-something a month. But yes, but they want you. But that's assuming you're gonna take 30 years to pay it. You save in that way when you look at it from 30 years. But I wasn't. I'm paying off my thing off early than 30 years. I said, "Well, shoot, that's not a whole lot of savings. All I got to do is make a little extra payments with the take extra payments on my the loan that I'm paying off, and do it like that." But sometimes people could think they could be real smart for their own good. Now I know people be saying you do the same thing. I know I know a particular troll that be Torsten Lorton or whatever the fuck your name was. I'm quite sure you just dying to send me messages, but you've been blocked. And don't make no troll page. Don't make no troll page because it ain't gonna go through. So don't waste your time. Let me see something here. Let me look at because I hold my comments for review. See if anybody else got something to say. I ain't know. My point is this. When it's all said and done, we all gonna leave this earth one day, whether you finish paying off your student loans or not. That's it. I said, like I told him, I said, I'm 50-some years old. I know I ain't gonna finish. I know I ain't gonna finish paying my debt completely. By the time it reaches that 29 more years or 8 or 9 more years, those whatever payments remaining, it'll be forgiven. My mortgage will be paid off in full unless I decide to really sell this house or do whatever and pay it off. There's different ways of doing things. But all the my main point about whose fault it is and all this stuff is that when you have institutions, whether it be private school, public school, for-profit schools, trade schools, community schools, colleges, whatever, is that they made it to the point it was out of reach for people who wants to go to school. Hey, stop it, Charlie. They put it out of reach for people to go who wants to go. Even if you work like a dog in high school or during the summers to come up with the money to pay for your books and tuition and incidentals and things like that, and get scholarships and things like that, and you work hard and you still have to you may have to, some people, you may have to take out student loans. But don't bash people, don't shame people about what they choose to do as a career, what they choose to do. Because just because you say, you need to major in STEM, some people ain't got the aptitude to even study STEM. Some people ain't got the core skills that you develop in high school to understand math. So much write and talk and speech. Some people can't even write a damn fucking sentence. And hey, get down. Charlie, Yeah. You know what? Come on. Get down. Jump on my bike. Come here. You've been acting. Come here. Okay, you know what? So loans, whether it's student loans, credit card, all that stuff, you choose to do it. You choose to take out the loans, but you got to say, okay, what's the reason why people take it? I don't care. It's not you to judge on people's reasoning as to why they took a loan out and it's your fault or whatever the case may be. We don't have no time to be pointing fingers about whose fault it is. Because last time I checked, I ain't seen nobody paying ain't nobody volunteer to pay my student loans off or pay any of the debts for that matter. So don't come out here talking about whose fault it is. Black folks in general should be the last people talking about whose fault. Charlie, I'm gonna let you have it on that one. I ain't gonna say nothing. So don't be placing fault and blame and everything else, especially coming from the history of Black folks here in this country in dealing when it came to education, when it came to trying to get an education, denying the rights. And I know people say, what the fuck that got to do with, somebody right now trolling. What the hell that got to do with it? It wasn't that fucking long ago. 1968 Black folks had to deal with getting the same civil rights to go to attend some of these public schools. UGA, South Carolina, they weren't allowed to go to those schools. They were not in those schools like that. The population of people going to those public schools that you pay taxes on, but you weren't allowed to go to USC and Berkeley and all these. Heck, over that cat. You weren't allowed to go to those universities and schools, and it's a public school. The same taxes that you pay, you were denied to go to a public school. And then if you was fortunate enough to go to these Ivy League schools, you got to deal with the social injustices and racism and going to that and people looking at you like you got to work in the school cafeteria so you can come up and pay tuition. And then you got people in that damn chat just shaming people. You should be disgusted. Half the people in that chat they probably barely got anything for themselves. Shoot. Don't get too damn fucking cocky about it. How the hell you can get that bad cocky about, blame about whose fault it is? If they choose to go to school and they incur the debt and they talking about, no, it shouldn't be forgiven. That's your choice. You pay millions of dollars in taxes, paid student loans or whatever, made payments. If you didn't make a payment, you're sacrificing something. People working as teachers and firefighters and all these other type of occupational jobs, or any type of occupation for that matter. The false marketing of how they do these student loans and stuff. And people are like, ain't nobody forced nobody to take no loans out. I could say the same thing about people being on Section 8 and getting these PPP loans that they never had a business. What about all these other countries that took out these loans from the World Bank and everything else? The United States took out loans, but people say, oh, they got to pay it back, but they didn't. The United States ain't paid back loans since the Civil War. They took out loans, borrowed money from France and all the and various countries for the last 200, 300, 400 years. And then the United States bailed out loans for other countries to use the weapons against them. And you telling me, and some of y'all people got the nerve to talk about people shouldn't be bailed out of their student loans, when that same country capitalized and got all that millions of dollars of tax debt, taxes. I'm paying taxes and paying everything else, car tax, property tax, real estate tax, taxes from going to the grocery store, taxes. But then they're giving trillions and trillions and millions of dollars. And don't talk about, they financed the war in Afghanistan. What about all this money they're giving out to people, able-bodied people living in these Section 8 housing and got a bunch of children and kids, and they getting government assistance in housing, and they sit up on YouTube talking about other people, Timothy Blaine. You sit up in here with your faggot ass sitting up there talking about Jay Wilson and everybody else, and you sitting up in here 62 years old, telling them, and you got Section 8 housing, getting all this assistance, and you were nothing but a bum on the fucking street selling dope to their own people and communities, being a drug dealer, and you catch AIDS, and then because of that, you getting SSI. You able-bodied. You could walk, talk, and everything else, but I'm me as a taxpayer is paying for people to be free and live free and be on YouTube and everything else. What about that? Let's talk about that. You sit here telling me I paid my taxes and paid everything else, and the government bailing out, giving up these free assistance for able-bodied people. Let's talk about that. It's amazing how people want to, all of a sudden people got student loans and everything else, and then when they say they should forgive it, they say, no, I ain't just forgive that. People have been paying student loans, paying it off. And then they sit up in there, and the main group of people who need to have, the student loans forgiven, and that ain't nothing. The government made their money from the interest that's accruing. Even if you paid double, you could double your payment. They apply the payment to the interest first. The only reason why now you can pay on your student loans is because they're not charging the interest rate. It's been suspended. Even if they had zero interest and I paid and pay or whatever. Shoot. I bought my house, I bought my property. People say, you ain't had to buy nothing. People talking about, I had to get in debt to buy a house, but yet the cost of housing is extremely out of reach. So when I bought my home, it was during an economic downturn. I saved my money. I paid my debts, paid off whatever debts, and bought my home. Now, can you imagine? Let me tell you what would happen if I didn't buy no house or whatever, and I stayed here in Atlanta, or even if I moved somewhere else to another state, and at this time in the age, I would have been outpriced about a house. Even if I rented an apartment, I would have paid, I would have to either live in some slummy, bumpy area in Atlanta somewhere to even try to pay $1,200 of rent. That would be on the cheap end. It would have been on a real rough area of town. Or I would have been, maybe move back to South Carolina, maybe move to South Carolina and, live in South Carolina or say, okay, I can't afford to live, I can't afford to live in this city or move somewhere, even like in South Carolina. I would have to live somewhere, or whatever the case may be. Or got to the point where I would have bought me a van and do the van life. So hopefully those people who go over here talking about forcing to pay, student loans and this and that and whatever the case may be, and debts and stuff. We're not talking about just purposely, people being irresponsible and just bail out. Shoot, they've been bailing out the banks in Wall Street and everything else. They bailed out Wall Street. They bailed out countries. And just, did all kind of things going on. Those countries didn't do nothing. Those banks and stuff they didn't pay anything. They capitalized in profit, lining the pockets. They lined up the pockets. They lined their pockets, capitalized on the expense of people who struggled to wanting to better themselves by going to school, and yes, and they about you go to community college, you could pay that off, and working part-time. I say that probably is true, but you don't know the situation of people. You don't know the situation of people and what they could afford to pay. People may be, struggling, working at ragged ass McDonald's or doing whatever. They may have to work 2 jobs just to pay and come up with tuition, and may not be able to do so even if you work like that. You have to be able, people act like, see, it's real easy to sit back and say, oh, it's easy. You can pay that off. I mean, I know I told that to you, Pat. I said, what? You could pay that off easily. But see, if I'm assuming that people, I said, well, if your income is this amount and you doing all these jobs and stuff, you could pay it. Yeah, that's true. But what happens one day if you lose your job? You try to find another job, and when you get up, as you increase in age, I don't give a damn, because nobody not gonna do it. See, y'all gonna know. Y'all gonna learn. These people who talking all that crap, they gonna learn. They got less than 10 years. They gonna get to that age when they realize people are not gonna be hiring younger people. They hire younger people at a certain age because they could pay them less. You come in there with experience, they don't have to ask your age. Or you just simply tailor your resume where you don't put down degrees and you don't put down degrees and you don't put down any type of. Why do they have to ask that? Why is that question asked in the first place? Why is that question asked in the first place? You better off just putting high school and that's it. And don't disclose that. Because you could be just as penalized having a degree. They don't, you could be penalized just for having that. And I'm not talking about looking for no real entry level type of job. I'm talking about even if they hire someone to work for Apple tech support and then they outsource these jobs to third party companies, they try to save money. So they're not going to pay these big salary figures. See, y'all got it twisted. Y'all thinking that, ooh, just because you in STEM, you're going to make this big amount of money. No. Nope. That is not necessarily so. Your salary and everything else is dictated to whomever say, you know what? Damn cat, I'm gonna. All right, Charlie. If I put you in the room and lock the door, you ain't coming out. Who's six people still watching me anyway? Just say something in the chat. Otherwise, I'm gonna end the chat because I'm tired of. I'm not talking to myself. I'll give you a few minutes before I go. So, all right, I'm giving y'all 2 minutes. All right. When it gets 2 hours and 15 minutes, so we only got, 40 more seconds, then I'm gone. Oh, nobody made no response. Bye. And remember, if you're a troll and you want to write something, please save your keystrokes. Do not send me nothing stupid. I'll be on here tomorrow. So I know this is a long video, a reaction video, but that's too long for you to get the point. So, but anyway, JT, that's my stance on it since you ain't want to let nobody say nothing. And then it's about, what's the point? They ain't talking, whatever. All right. Talk to y'all later.